Huang, China's prosperity with peace today is not the results from aggression or colonization. Rather, it is supported by wisdom, sacrifice, and diligence of its people. The United States has also gained much from the struggles and rise of China. In response to Vice President Pence's recent speech on China policy at the Hudson Institute, Taiwan's pro-mainland newspaper China Times published a commentary by Ms. Huang Zhixian, a famous TV hostess, response to U.S. Vice President Pence's speech. The following is the unofficial translation of the full text.
Your Excellency, on the eve of the midterm election, it is really regrettable that the United States is blaming and slandering in China, a friend nation, disregard of facts. You are obviously not aware of a true and complete history, or deliberately do not mention it. China has never owed anything to the United States, and rather it is full of goodwill to the United States. Throughout the history, the cooperation between China and the United States has always been positive to the world peace, and at the same time, the United States has benefited greatly from the cooperation. When China was invaded by the great powers, it was almost divided and grasped into pieces. Although the United States has vast land and rich resources, it was not absent. When the United Kingdom obtained the concession territory in Tianjin, the United States also got a concession territory. Not being in use, it was even privately transferred to the United Kingdom. Yet you mentioned the Guangxi Indemnity. When the eight-power Allied forces broke into the Forbidden City, China was brutally looted. It was also forced to pay a huge price of compensation, which is 450 million tael fine silver. That amount was China's 5-year fiscal revenue. Although the United States did not send troops directly, it actually got 7.32% of the total compensation. The huge compensation was the most deadly knife on the back to the decaying empire of China, and the teardrops of hundreds of millions of Chinese people. Yes, the United States had a vision. Because the land expansion of the United States had been accomplished, what the United States wanted was economic and trade interests as well as political influence. The president of the University of Illinois, Edmund James, wrote to Theodore Roosevelt, if the United States had succeeded 35 years ago in turning the current of the Chinese students to this country, we should today be controlling the development of China in that most satisfactory and subtle of all ways, through the intellectual and spiritual domination of its leaders. In 1905, the United States-Chinese Exclusion Act resulted in Chinese peoples boycotting American goods. Returning part of the Guangxi Indemnity to China in 3 years was to calm the anger of the Chinese people. The refund by the United States was actually a part that it admitted excessive amount. Moreover, China still had to pay the full compensation on time, and the United States will refund the overly taken amount to the designated fund in installments. Subsequently, China got a Guangxi scholarship for students to study in the United States, and a new University of Tsinghua. But the United States had also benefited, spending most of the indemnity back in the United States, and expanding its long-term influence in China. It also repaired the image of the United States in China and further pacified the burning boycott. In the Second World War, Japan invaded China, and China was isolated without help. The United States did not give a hand. Even at the most critical moment in China, the United States was still supplying Japanese strategic materials. It was not until Japan attacked Pearl Harbor that the United States declared war on Japan. Even so, China still has not received reasonable treatment and assistance from the United States. The tens of millions of casualties of Chinese soldiers and civilians, and the blood and tears of the people in a nearly destroyed country, were even not worth mentioning by other countries. In the Yalta Secret Agreement, China's allies of the United States, Britain and Russia, betrayed China. Diaoyutai was part of China. But after the war, it was not returned to China with Taiwan. In the posthumous as an occupier, the United States handed over the administration of Diaoyutai to Japan. The Japanese troops Unit 731 were horrific and inhuman. However, because the Japanese gave the experimental reports to the United States, in exchange, it has been keeping decades of silence. China has suffered repeated invasions, civil wars, and various mistakes, and has only recently stood firm in the world. The country is still not unified. We still have too many deficiencies in various fields. However, since the reform and opening up, achieving an affluent life for 1.4 billion people has been the first time in human history. We appreciate it very much. China's prosperity with peace is not the results from aggression or colonization. Rather, it is supported by wisdom, sacrifice, and diligence of our people. The United States has also gained much from the struggles and rise of China. For example, the Chinese consumers bought 30% of the total iPhone units. For each unit, the iPhone is only worth $300 in value. China only took $10 for assembling, while the US took all part, which is above $200. Human civilization shows different development paths. Among all the countries that have been invaded by the Western powers, why can only China find a unique road toward prosperity? The road to democracy must be solid. The fact that so many countries have been suffering falls and wars under the name of democracy is a mirror with bloods and tears. China and the United States today still have a big gap in all aspects. We will redouble our efforts to make the people happy and prosperous. But the benchmark of assessing China should not be the measurement of the United States. We understand that the United States has all negative imaginations about China's wealths and strengths, which is purely based on its desire to maintain global hegemony. In order to suppress China, the United States has launched a multidimensional, all-round containment against China. But this is unwise. Because God is not pleased with the hegemonic domination and oppression by the United States or any other powers. I truly believe that the Chinese style of achieving oneself while benefiting others would be more beneficial to all mankind, and also more likely bring the joy of the Lord. Thank you.